let me say a few home truths, particularly to some members of this panel. Migration is absolutely essential to our public services, it's absolutely essential to our businesses, and it's absolutely essential to our economic...
Nigel Farage wants to make this an immigration election for his own self-interest. Let's change the tone. Let's change the tone of the debate on immigration. You know, too much of it is framed around, frankly, the bigotry of people like Nigel Farage.
Keir has been absolutely clear. I am absolutely clear. We will keep our nuclear deterrent and we will invest in it into the future.
It doesn't matter
we
what you're prepared to spend.
Clear on
it
that.
doesn't matter how many...
Right, so just now, the second leaders' debate on the UK elections has concluded. So first one was on the ITV, where we saw Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak going head-to-head, and how the entire debate had become controversial because of the presenter's dubious role, which was Julie Etchingham's role, and how she had rephrased the question in order to avoid the embarrassment for Israel. That's exactly was the widespread perception about her conduct. Now tonight, BBC had 7 representatives from 7 different parties, and they were not the top leaders. So unlike Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer, the Conservative Party was being represented by Penny Mordaunt, and the Labour was being represented by Angela Rayner, and likewise, and then we also had Nigel Farage, who has been quoting controversies because of Islamophobic rants and racist remarks. We saw that on Sky News and we have reported that, and he has not apologized on those comments. So therefore, we have nothing else to say than to assume that he indeed meant to make those Islamophobic and racist comments. They discussed various topics, various issues around economy, around immigration, around Brexit, knife crime, NHS waiting list, and whatnot, except for one topic there. Except for one topic, and very insignificant topic. Rightly so, very insignificant. You know BBC, you can't question BBC's editorial judgment. They know everything. They know everything. The changed BBC knows everything. And they know that that topic is very, very insignificant. And that topic is about Israeli genocide in Gaza. So the public broadcaster, which is funded by your money, by my money, and a lot of money, I pay £160 every year, and I'm sure every household in this country pays £160 a year, and yet the BBC thinks that the topic of Israeli genocide against 2.4 million Palestinians is not important enough for it to be included in the leadership debate. So the population of this country and the voters of this country does not deserve to know what the future leaders of this government, of the British government, think about its action or its relationship with a genocidal regime. Because that's what we came to know today. So you discussed everything except a Gaza topic. So there was no question. There was absolutely no question on the Britain's arms sale to Israel, even when we know the evidence after evidence is emerging, whereby Israel is being seen deliberately targeting innocent civilians and killing them in scores. As we speak, only yesterday, 14 children were brutally massacred by Israel. And where were those 14 children? They were sheltering in a school run by UNRWA. And you know how Israelis hate UNRWA. And when the question was posed to the American State Department spokesperson, as usual, he said that they have left it for Israel to investigate and pass a judgment on its own war crime. That's a shamelessness we have talked about on many occasions. So therefore, there was no place for that question to be included in tonight's debate. Yes. Okay, you can say that, look, BBC is very impartial because you see, there is a Muslim brown color presenter hosting the debate. What more do you want from the BBC? Wow, great. Job done. Mishal Hussain, a British Muslim news presenter working in the BBC, who, by the way, I have known from my BBC days because she was also in the BBC at the same time when I worked in the corporation. So I know her. So this is not a reflection on her editorial judgment because she was merely acting as a presenter. The decision to include a question on Gaza may have been taken by people higher up, people in the editorial management. I know how BBC works. So you have on-air faces, and then you have people deciding the editorial content who are not necessarily on air. So the BBC must explain as to why it decided not to include a question on Gaza, even when it affects a large section of those people who would be voting on 4th of July. Isn't BBC expected to represent the ambitions of its population, the population that it serves, and the population that it collects billions of pounds every year from? Is it too much to ask from a corporation which is directly being funded by the population in this country? Or the BBC has decided to take a stand, and the stand is to side with Israeli and protect Israeli war crime. Is it the case? If that is the case, BBC management must come clean on this. Must come clean on this and say, yes, we have decided to protect Israel, or it was an oversight, or there was no question. Nobody asked a question on Gaza, because in the past we have seen BBC's questionable performance, that how it has been religiously referring to everything coming from Gaza as being attributed to Hamas-run health ministry, but it doesn't attribute in the same way when the news is emerging from Israel. So the 1,200 people being killed on 7th of October can never be attributed to anybody. Don't trust me. Just go and check go and check all the broadcasts of the BBC. But anything, and death and the murder of innocent civilians in Gaza are always attributed to Hamas-run health ministry to make sure that, look, there can be a doubt of suspicion on these numbers or on this development. So there are reasons for us to doubt BBC's intention as somebody who pays, who funds the organization, who funds the corporation. So that's one element. Coming back to the debate, I think if I am an undecided voter, after tonight's performance, I am quite inclined to vote for SNP or Plaid Cymru. Because these two gentlemen really stole the thunder. We've seen Stephen Flynn's performance in Parliament over the years during the Prime Minister's question time. And tonight he was no different. He decided to take on Nigel Farage head on, taking a dig at his divisive politics. And he said twice, on 2 occasions, his comments were met with a thunderous applause from the audience. That says a lot. And those are quite contentious topics, which now in the change politics of this country has become taboo to talk about it. That is immigration and Brexit. He said that we should embrace immigration. It's good for the economy. And see how people responded.
Let me say a few home truths, particularly to some members of this panel. Migration is absolutely essential to our public services, it's absolutely essential to our businesses, and it's absolutely essential to our economic.
And then he went to talk about the pitfalls of Brexit and how Brexit has ruined the country's economy, which I have been saying for so many months and years, and yet some of you think that I'm just talking crap. I have personally been affected by Brexit and how it has had adverse impact on the inflation. And I'm glad somebody spoke with so much of conviction. That was Stephen Flynn today. And again, see how people reacted.
But there's also a conspiracy of silence on one other issue, and that's Brexit. Because Brexit has impacted the economy more than the COVID pandemic. It has put your food bills up completely unnecessarily. It has been an unmitigated disaster for the economy. And And that is why at this election you need to ignore the snake oil salesman who delivered Brexit, and you need to challenge the Labour Party and the Conservative Party about why they aren't seeking to rejoin the single market, why they aren't seeking to double down on making sure that we return to freedom of movement, and why we aren't investing in our renewables future.
And our exports are at a record high.
Penny, you know for a fact that Brexit has wiped £40 billion worth of tax receipts out of the UK economy. You did that because you were terrified of Nigel Farage. The worrying thing for me, though, is it's not Nigel. It's the silence of the Labour Party when it comes to the damage of Brexit. Silence on £18 billion of cuts, silence on Brexit. The public deserve better, and the SNP will provide it.
And then the Plaid Cymru's leader, when he spoke, I mean, again, he said that do not trust Labour, do not trust Conservative Party, because they cannot take on Nigel Farage, because they have also shifted pretty right in their politics. And he said the Plaid Cymru will always take on Nigel Farage and his divisive politics. And then he goes on to talk about the positive impact of immigration, and see how audience reacts to his comments in favor of immigration.
Nigel Farage wants to make this an immigration election for his own self-interest. Let's change the tone. Let's change the tone of the debate on immigration. You know, too much of it is framed around, frankly, the bigotry of people like Nigel Farage.
Please. Is that the best you can do?
Penny Mordaunt can't stand up to Nigel Farage because she wants her party to be like Nigel Farage.
They're the opposite.
Angela Rayner can't stand up to Nigel Farage because of the shift in her party to the right. Plaid Cymru will stand up to Nigel Farage.
Open doors, everyone come.
Of course we need rules.
Come.
Of course we need
Benefits
rules.
for everybody, lovely.
Of course we need rules on borders. Wales controlled its own borders during COVID. That's what countries do. But we need those around proper processing of asylum applications. We need to stop the vile and expensive Rwanda flights. We need safe passage into this country, and we need to realise that we need immigration for the interests of our health system, our care system, and our economy.
Penny Mordaunt, do you...
And the last but not the least, you know, I don't know if Rishi Sunak told Penny Mordaunt to just be a heckler all throughout the debate. That doesn't help you. And that's really a disastrous strategy, if that's what Sunak has told you. Because I know he is in the business of heckling during the leaders' debate. But heckling is not going to get you any points or any extra vote. In fact, it's going to put even your supporters off.
And it's too late for Labour on credibility. Angela Rayner voted recently, along with the guy that wants to be your foreign secretary and half the Labour front bench, to end our nuclear deterrent. If you're doubting that they would use that force, and she might be Prime Minister in 4 or 5 years' time.
You're the party that have cut the armed forces, crashed the economy and left us in a real mess. Keir has been absolutely clear. I am absolutely clear. We will keep our nuclear deterrent and we will invest in it into the future.
It doesn't matter
we
what you're prepared to spend.
Clear on that.
It doesn't matter how many submarines you stand next to and have your photograph taken. If your foe does not believe that you will use these weapons, the deterrent is gone. Well, and that's the position you're in. Serious stuff. This is what will happen if you elect these people.
We've become a laughingstock internationally because of your party. Keir Starmer has changed the Labour Party. We're very clear on our number one priority is to protect our.
Let me bring in some more parties on this question.
My brother was served in Iraq. I won't be lectured on whether or not I'm absolutely committed to the security of our country.
It's surprising then you're not better in...
Let the question, Mr.
Repeating one lie many a times doesn't make it a truth. A lie will always remain a lie. So do not even try that if you are taking part in future leaders debates. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.